be recording from here on in. So you know who's in the room with us, and then we'll probably have a couple more join as we go on. So maybe Becky, as you were top marks for being so on time, maybe you want to start us off.
Yeah, probably just a keynote, that's all it is. So I'm Becky, I'm the HR manager at a company called The Flavour People. We're a food manufacturer in Manchester.
Super. And Gorse.
Hello everyone, I am the HR director at Ultronics, a startup business that's been going for about 5 years, which focuses on AI and heart equipment, basically. So supporting consultants to better identify heart conditions, early warning signs. Delighted to be here.
Exciting. And Nicola?
So I'm managing director at a consulting company called Cropfish Consulting, and my past is as an executive in agribusiness and food, and now I'm consulting on strategy and business development and finance. So, and I advise company, and I think culture is always something which is underrated. I'm also on some boards where we don't discuss enough about culture. So I think is a great initiative what Marita and her colleagues are setting up. So I'm curious to learn more and to see if there are opportunities.
Oh, and Nicola, the words culture is underrated. I mean, I think I need to quote you on that. Fantastic. And also on boards. So there is some statistics out there that leaders, so 97% of leaders believe that culture is important, but leaders only spend 6% of their time working on culture. So there's that really mismatch somewhere along the line about, we know it's important, but we don't spend the time in it as leaders. And Katie's coming in from, she gave you a thumbs up there. Well explained, Nicola. HR from Green Core. So welcome in. And Liz, maybe you want to just...
Yeah, I'm HR and Operations Manager at Chaucer Foods UK Limited. I'm in the baked division, so we make
super
daily bread.
Oh, gorgeous.
So quite a few people from the food background.
From the food. So a lot of the companies we work with is food. You'll see there's some common themes here. Yeah. So we have a number of food clients. So my background is a lot in food. I worked in the big corporates and some family-owned companies. So I worked across the range. That's where I say I learned my skill. I was ops, managing the manufacturing sites. So boots on the ground, as I say, that's where it mainly all happens. And a lot of companies, a lot of culture companies, actually, they focus a lot on the very cool tech, new companies. Now, of course, you're very welcome as well, but it's a lot around people who are desk-based. So a lot of work we do is considering also the non-desk-based people, like how does that work? The boots on the ground. So construction, manufacturing, how do we ensure that the hourly workers are included as well, and not just, when we send out an online survey for desk-based. So I'm very conscious of manufacturing because my heart lies there a little bit, Liz, as well from my past. Glyn, if you want to come in, and Gail as well, join in. We're just going quickly around the room, introduction, and then we'll blast in and I will share you as many golden nuggets as I can.
Hi everyone. I'm Gail Coburn. I have recently set up my own consultancy business called Happiness HR, which is really looking at employee engagement. So actually here to learn a bit about yourselves, what you do, as well, and see how that can fit with what I'm doing. Prior to that, I was HR director for Edrington UK, so the whiskey company. Yep. So finished up there in September after 18 years. So it's a bit of a change, but actually feeling quite liberated. So exciting time.
It's a new adventure for you. Next phase, and you can take all the good things from Edrington's and your past experience and bring that into your new venture. And we have Glyn as well. Do you want to come off mute there? And so welcome.
Hi, how are you doing?
Hi.
Hi, so I'm Darius. So we're quite a fast scaling business. So we're just about to hit 1,000 people. We're across UK and Europe. Obviously, as the business grows at such pace, culture is something that gets impacted. We're obviously trying to deal with how we do that, especially with cross-cultural dynamics as well. So just thought it'd be quite interesting to join here.
Yes. Really good, really conscious of that. Yeah, that. So you're talking about cross-country cultures and nationality cultures, as well as having a culture in a company. And it's really interesting to work internationally and see how they overlap. So what we're talking about today is for if you're, as I say, setting up the culture from the beginning. So really in a new sort venture, but also if you are resetting, it's the same logic, same concrete basis, fundamentals that sit across all cultures. These are the common themes that you need in place, and we'll walk through them, and then we'll just do a little exercise as well. So as this is a workshop type thing, it's not for us to lecture to you guys. You're all bringing your own experience in the room as well. So please jump in with questions or comments or as we go along, and you are all very welcome. Right, let's blast on. So I'm Marita Price from Hello Performance, Irish originally, based in the UK, so still have a bit of the Irish accent, as you can hear. And my background is, I was talking to telling Liz, is that I worked mainly in the food industry, so worked with small companies right through to the big corporates like Kraft Foods. And I worked in actually the manufacturing side, so hands on the ground, running big manufacturing sites with 400, 600 people. And I learned, as I say, I learned my trade there because we arrived. I was up in Sweden, in Scandinavia, over in Norway and Sweden, and we had some issues in the plants where the culture was just not good. I was making it up as I went along and worked out how to actually do it. And then following that, we worked out we had a system, and then we've built that over time, as we've then moved into a consultancy where we then did it for other companies and become really systematic of how we do this, and can see that there is the basic systems across. And we've calibrated with some US companies as well on culture and how they do it to make sure that we're really refining our process. So I'll share the steps with you guys today so you can take that with you. Our purpose is a better workday for all. We believe that everyone should have a great workday, and not just for cool companies, for every sort of company, whether you're hourly, desk-based, non-desk-based, you're a construction worker, you're a manufacturer, you're putting ingredients on a line, or whether you're a cool designer, you should have a great workday. And the logic is the same for all companies. Just how it's applied will slightly obviously vary. So welcome in, Laura. I've seen you've joined us there. Let me just make my little screen.
Marita, can I just ask, will you be providing these slides, or are they?
So I will provide two things after. Or do you know what, if there's something, I will tell you what I'll provide, and if there's anything else extra that would be of value, I can share it.
Okay.
So we will, the 10 steps that we will walk through, I will share that. The work booklet that we use for the exercise we're going to do, I will share that. And if there's anything else, some of this is just pictures and stuff, of course, that is just introduction. But if there's anything else that is of value, please just ping me and I can share it. But we will share the two key things that I think that you will need. And I'll share the recording as well, Gors. So you will have,
thank you.
Yeah, you will have everything in case you miss anything. So one of our values is we have impact. So we want to make sure that whatever we're doing has impact. It's not just a nice fluffy thing to do, it actually has impact. So one of our gorgeous customers, Bailey of Bristol, they posted just this week on LinkedIn how we have a new ritual going on there where they're giving awards for when the guys in the warehouse, the manufacturing, are living the values, and they give them a voucher. And it was really gorgeous to see actually all these things that we designed actually coming to life. Brendan, they works for a gorgeous medical company, and we went in and did the process, and they've seen a rise in their KPIs around performance, culture, and engagement. So that was really fantastic to see. So obviously, Gail, it all comes back to engagement in the back, but that is actually a consequence or part of it as well. So really gorgeous to see some of the, when you actually do put the process in place, that you have impact. So one of the things we always ask ourselves is, if we're going to do something, is it going to have impact? So one of the statements I love, there's always a culture. You end up with one, whatever you do. So you can either choose to shape it and influence it, or take your chances. So one of my favorite quotes. And we obviously are all about, let's choose to shape this. Don't take your chances, because then you will end up with maybe a destructive culture. So we go into companies. What do you think is the most common culture barriers that we see, or that we hear? Statements that we hear. What do you think they are? Why don't we fix it? Why isn't culture great in this company, in my company? Because we, or I, why isn't my culture great?
Them and us culture.
Them and us culture. Very regular, and especially if there is a high number of hourly and salaried workers, you regularly get that them and us. What else?
I think sometimes as well that people don't necessarily feel like they're appreciated as much as they should be regularly and consistently, which obviously can create negativity.
And that's part of the culture. So what would the leaders be saying to me? So the culture is great. It's not great because
Performance is low.
performance
Attitude
is
is
low.
poor. Toxic
People don't
culture
seem
as well.
motivated.
Yeah, they don't see. So that's what you see. So why don't leaders go and fix it? The performance is low, the engagement is low, the motivation. Why then do they just go fix culture?
Don't think they
think-
know how to sometimes.
Yes,
Yeah.
they don't know how to sometimes. It's really true. How do you go about it? What else?
Time often is a barrier.
Time often, and in two aspects on time, Gail, is it takes too much time. I feel this is going to be years. It's going to take, I'll be moved on it then. I'll have a new job over here. Or I don't have the time. I have other stuff on my plate to do. I haven't got time to work on culture. Really true.
Yeah.
Regularly
Also,
do that.
it's difficult to measure, right?
Oh,
That's
such
a
a
key
great
issue,
one.
because I
Yeah.
mean, even I was reading something say, if somebody says my country is good, or is how do you know? How do you know if it's good or bad? How do you
Yes.
measure it? Because sometimes my myth, and people think is one way, but it's not, and they don't know.
Oh, such a true one, Nicola. Nicola. It's such a regular one that you get. Oh, we can't measure it. So how do we know it's getting better? It's just like, is this nice, or we're good? And in fact, a lot of the time they say we are great here. And then I was like, have we measured? Have we got some facts around this? Katie says leadership capability, a very common one. Regularly you find that out, rather than them saying we don't have the capability internally. This having the skills, Katie, having the skills and experience of how to influence culture is another one. It's like, I just don't know how to go about it, as we mentioned already.
I think some people feel as well that it's not a valued effort. So if you're a senior manager and you I don't know, you're a chief operating officer or something, you're spread so thin, but you also know that it is critical. But in terms of the amount of effort versus the reward, they probably think, well, actually, I'm better served just focusing on, budget constraints and the things that actually get talked about, as you said, the 6% that we don't discuss, because I think, and also I think there's also a link between that leadership piece around, what am I going to find out that I don't really want to know?
No, oh, that's a great one, Gorse. And you're so nervous when we go back in and present like engagement survey results, or when we've done or culture intel, and we'll be talking about this culture intel today. How do we gather that intel when we go back and present? And you see the nervousness coming in, going, what are we going to hear? And I always start off with going, we've taken the hardest step. You've decided to ask the questions. You are already courageous. anything we find out, we can make better. You know, as a company, you can make better whatever you find out. So you've done the courageous step by saying, I'm going to ask. And I said already by asking, you know, the questions to, like if you did an engagement survey, for example, is you've shown the people, we care, we want to know the answer. Of course, what you do about that justifies whether or not they believe that something great is going to happen. So you have to make, so I always say, don't do a survey unless you're going to take action. So yes, we hear regularly, it takes too much time. It just takes too much time for time on my, but I always say everything else is easier if your culture is great. Any initiative you want to implement, if the culture is good. Friction between departments causes so much delay and issues and performance. If we can get rid of that friction, can you imagine how fast we can get things done? So getting the culture helps everything else in the long run. It's too complex. Yes. Is culture fluffy and ambiguous? We say, let's bring it down to some facts, some things we can measure so that we do not have to have this fluffy, ambiguous, I don't really know what I want. I don't even know where to start. So we say that's why there's a clear process, 10 steps we go through, ticking them off and measuring every aspect that we put in place to prove it's working, is critical as well. We're good already is another one we hear. Oh, we're good already. I've ticked that one. You know, I did culture last year. It was on my goals. And this is, we say, it's continuous. You need to be alive. It's a continuous improvement project regularly, because it can be lost like that. Trust takes a long time to build and very fast to lose. We can't measure it, as you said, Nicola. That is a regular one. It comes up. And another one I got is we've already bought the ping pong table. We did the culture thing. They're all having fun playing ping pong. Ping pong table is not culture. That is not going to get you the behaviors you need to achieve your strategy. So I always say, you know, how are we going to achieve our strategy? What behaviors would we need? That's what's going to build our culture. So we say, yes, now when we say about fluffy, designing a culture is like designing a house. Yes, it has, and the first things are getting the design right. Getting the basic core fundamentals right is the foundation. We'll talk about the foundations of a culture, and then everything else, because there is regular themes across culture. So when we've studied great cultures like Zappos and stuff, they have common factors about them that they have in place. So that is what you need if you want a great culture. Right, getting the design right. So five, let me move just the chat here. So we talk about a 5-step culture shift, about gathering intel, designing the culture. So design what step you need. And this is for whatever aspect you want to bring in. And we'll be talking about the 10 different aspects, whatever aspect you want to shift, move, change. I don't like to talk about culture change. It's about culture shift. We never actually change. We nudge it along, we shift it along. It's along a continuum. We never go from X to Y. You never go from being a really poor culture with a lot of friction to suddenly being an amazing place to work. It's a continuum, nudging it along. So, and then anything we want, once we've designed it, anything we want to implement, we do an experiment. This is a key one. Whatever you say, you know what, we're going to work on our meetings or a decision making, or having stay interviews is something we're going to talk about today, is do it in a controlled environment and get feedback on it, measure it and see, is it impactful? Do it, so either do it in your own department. So that's what we tell MDs and leaders, do it in your leadership team first. Or if you're a HR and you need to influence and you don't have your own team, choose one of the departments that has a very proactive leader and that is really pro-culture. Trial it there, see the impact, and then you will see the positive ripple effect. And then you have your example to go and share with the other departments when you want to roll things out further. Experiment, then embed it, repeat, get it embedded, and then measure. We talk about culture as a KPI, which will talk to Nicola's heart. Culture as a KPI is, we want it up there, just like the productivity, profit, it needs to be up there in line so that it gets the focused. And what gets managed, what gets measured gets managed, but what we say is what gets measured gets improved. Let's raise the bar here. Right, so I am going to talk through. So these are the 10 stages to a great culture, the 10 stages you need to go through. You will be sent this handout after. We will talk through the 10 steps. And this is what we work through. This is if we go in and support a company to improve their culture. And this is what we would recommend you guys to consider now as well, if you are working on the culture in your company. So step number 1. Gather the intel on the culture, whatever exists. And we're going to work through an exercise to help you gather the intel on the culture, because the more information you have, the easier it is to sell to leadership, the easier it is to convince people to do it when you have a really good picture of where we are today, highlighting where the issues are. Step number 2, decode the core fundamentals. 3 core fundamentals. Purpose. That's the why you exist. So why are you in business? Why do we actually exist outside of making money? So what is the reason we come to work? Why do we exist as a company? If you get that right, it can be highly inspiring, having a great purpose. So for us, ours is a better workday for all. So we come in and we go, are we making whatever we're doing, is this going to make a better workday for all? And when we say all, that's why our hearts sit with both hourly and salaried workers. The them and us, if that exists, Becky, is a big one for us. So better workday for all. So purpose, the why. Values, what is it you value in the company? Yeah, the values, getting those nailed, defined. And then the third part of this practice is setting the behaviors. So when you have your values, converting those and saying, what behaviors would we see? What do we do and what do we not do in this company to live that value? That gives real clarity to every employee how they should live that value. So, for example, honesty is a common one that comes up as a value. But what do we mean by honesty? Everyone will have a different opinion of honesty in this room. What do we actually do? What behaviors will get rewarded and what behaviors will get punished if in the company? And they are harsh words, but it's really good when you're doing an exercise to say, this is our value, this is what we think is important. Now define the behaviors. That is a real golden one to do. So purpose, the why, values, the what, behaviors, the how. They are the core fundamentals. They are the foundations of your building for everything. So now we know why we exist. The values, we know what we value, and behaviors, we know how we're going to live those behaviors. Step number 3, no good having nice fancy words on the wall, which I've seen in lots of companies, including ones I worked for. Great, lovely posters, beautiful posters, doesn't mean anything in the day-to-day, yeah? So then it's about bringing that to life, getting it embedded in the DNA of the company. So we talk about see it, you need to be able to see it, you need to be able to hear it and feel it. So seeing it, so we did a launch with a construction company in London, and we talk about the 7 ways of seeing it. It was on their screensavers. It was when they entered the reception, it was on the wall. Every presentation that was done, it came up. It was in their email signatures. It was just, they were seeing it. And then hearing it. So it has to come live. You need to hear the leaders talking about it, the values, examples, the stories. That's where the hearing. And then feeling it, that is the one. Is it getting embedded in the company so they're actually feeling it, because that makes it really, really real. So see it, hear it, feel it for every value. 4th stage. So once we have that, the next stage is having culture smart managers. So if we talk about the behaviors that we want to see, what we need to do then is we need to have the courage to tackle the poor behaviors. So is every manager got the courage and the skills to be able to tackle poor behavior? Because what absolutely kills a culture is when we see these are the behaviors we want, but we see something else out in the shop floor. So that is one of the most greatest game changers you can do in a culture, is getting the culture smart managers, getting when I say a manager, I mean team leaders, managers, leaders, everyone really great at tackling poor behavior, eliminating it, because your culture is the lowest behavior that is accepted. Your culture is the lowest behavior that is accepted. That's what defines your culture. So you might have heard about the brilliant jerk. So he's great at sales or great at everything, but he does his own thing and doesn't treat people well or doesn't follow the values. Is he allowed to continue? Is that accepted? Because what you are doing is saying, actually, you don't have to live the behaviors and the values in this company. It's just all BS. So culture smart managers, a game changer, a game changer. Next, meetings, effective meetings. So these are now all the different elements. So how do you in your company convene and collaborate? What's unique about them? How do you make sure they're effective? Are you getting feedback, making sure they are getting better and better and better? Because if you're using meetings as a way of communication or a way of getting work done, they need to be pretty hot. And we say, do a bit of a meeting detox. Look down through your meetings and say, which ones? What's the purpose of that meeting? Why do we have that meeting? And is it meeting its purpose? Because if it's not meeting its purpose, let's dump it and get something else in place. Yeah. So listing all the meetings and doing a meeting detox like gold, having a clear purpose for every meeting, and then making sure that purpose is met in the meeting, because otherwise it's just wasting everyone's time. If you calculate, 8-9 people in a room, wasting an hour every day for a month, that is a lot of time and a lot of dosh flushed down the toilet. So effective meetings, that's how you convene and collaborate, yeah? Clear decision making. So this is the next aspect that's really good to look at. How do you make decisions in your company? What is the process of making decisions in your company? Is it clear? Does everyone know how decisions are made? It's a simple question, but so many companies, actually, could we answer how decisions are made in this company? So the question, or the other thing I always remind leaders is, employees don't need to be empowered, they need authority. Employees don't want empowerment, they want authority. They want to be clear on what can I make a decision on and what can I not make a decision on. It can make things really slow and cumbersome if the decision making is not clear. And that is one aspect, especially, Glenn, if we talk about you growing fast, having real clarity on how decisions are made, especially if there's new people coming in, so that it is crystal clear how a decision is being made. And you have different then processes of how to make decisions. Is it just the leadership? Do you involve the whole entire company? There's a gorgeous company, they do a 3-2-1 weighting vote. So if it's an aspect that is going to, if it's something that is going to impact me, I have a 3 weighted, or if I have the responsibility for the outcome, I have 3 votes. If I will be impacted, I have 2 votes. And if I'm just part of the company and want to say, I have 1 vote. So a different weightings for when they're making big decisions about aspects in the company. So that's clear decision making. Psychological safety is the next aspect to look at. How do you, and every time we start talking about psychological safety, I sometimes see leaders switch off going, what the heck is that? Why do we do that stuff? Is this us all that we all can be around holding hands, telling our deep, dark secrets? No, the question is can we have candid, courageous conversations in this company? Candid, courageous conversations. Can we have them? It's clear, yes or no. Are they happening? And then the ultimate, so that's, if you get that in place, then the ultimate level of psychological safety is when you're safe to make mistakes. That's when innovation really happens. That's the third level of psychological safety. So getting that psychological safety in place where you can have candid, courageous conversations, say what is really the problem, then we can fix it. or does the messenger get shot if they say something, if they put up their hand? Yeah. The next aspect, peer-to-peer feedback. This one I just absolutely love. It can be another game changer in a company. There's 3 levels of feedback, but getting to that highest level where peer-to-peer feedback. This is what keeps a culture alive and improving. If you have peer-to-peer feedback, it takes away all the outside part. It takes away the leadership having to control it to make it happen. It becomes a life of its own. And it can eliminate poor behaviors, and it can accelerate performance improvement, getting peer-to-peer feedback. So all the discussions that happen between people, we want to stop that. We want to bring it in and happening direct. The water cooler conversations, as they talk about it. So lots of things get discussed out there. We want to take them from there and bring them in and have them on the table. We talk about talking about the stinky fish. What's the problem that no one is talking about? Next one, then rituals to reinforce. So now we have all of the basic structures in place, and now it's about developing some rituals that reinforce the culture. So, awards like Bailey's are just doing, they've created that as a ritual. So every month they tell the story of what they did, and they award someone. I have another client, and they do speed dating with leadership because they want to be really transparent. And they have a speed dating with leadership. So you get an opportunity to speed date for 15 minutes where the leader hears some challenges that the employee is having, and the employee can tell the leadership what they really think of the company. So that's a really magic one. So different rituals so what you're trying to do is reinforce the behaviors you want to see. And then ultimately the culture is a KPI. So measurement along the way, doing pulses along the way to make sure you're achieving the culture you want. And then ultimately having it up there as a regular KPI that's being measured. We even have companies where the leaders, their bonuses are connected as well to the culture scores. So really that is the 10, that's our process for if we want to, or it's a process for you guys if you want to re-energize your culture, considering those aspects. And you can't do it all together, but picking out the ones that you see that maybe have the bigger challenges and tackling some of those. So we're going to look today at a little bit of gathering the intel on your culture. So this is a document I will send to you. We use the 6 L's of culture intel. So look is what sources of intel do you have? What is your culture like today? What's the status of it? So getting some facts so that we can actually measure it and move it forward. What do we love about the culture? What aspects of culture works well? What aspects of culture are really difficult? That's the loath part. What does not work so well? What do people long for? What do you long for? It tells you so much of what is needed in a company. Is it better managers? Is it better support? Is it that we, that we're honest with each other? Is it that we're just more effective? That we're doing the right thing? Whatever it is, what do people long for? Then link it. What is it? Where do you want to be this time next year? So setting some clear goals for your culture. That's the only way you can improve. And then working out what is it you need to do to try and achieve those goals. So we'll send you that doc. I love this, the iceberg of ignorance. So much of the information, every employee is a sensor, is a sensor for some sort of information and how the culture is. So the executives see 4% of the problems, staff see 100%. So if you're able to have those courageous conversations and honestly say what's happening, or in surveys gathering that information, you can be so much richer on what you actually need to tackle. So if we talk about that look phase, what sources of intel exist? Here are some of the things that we look at when we go into a company. And I thought it'd be useful for you to say, which ones do we have? Which ones don't we? And then I'll give you a hint. If you don't have any of them, not a problem. I'll tell you the one to do immediately to get some good intel. So first one, observations. You guys, you observe so much. You can see the culture. You're in the company. You see it, you feel it. You see how people act each other. You see what's happening between departments. You see the problems. You are great observers. So that's first one. You know so much about the culture already. Then we would say, look at employee surveys. Customer feedback, another great intel how the company is doing, what works and what doesn't work. Levers interviews, performance indicators. Is the company performing or not? Great way to tell if the culture is, what's the state of the culture. Stay interviews. I love stay interviews. Levers interviews is when you are leaving the company. Staying interviews are interviews you do with people in the company and ask them, why do you stay? What would you change right now to make this place a better place to work? Gold, stay interviews. And if you don't have any of this intel, this intelligence, do some stay interviews with a variety of people. It's like golden nuggets you will have after it. New recruits feedback, another great one, new into the company, they're sussing it out, they had an impression, and they're like, what is the status? So getting some new recruit feedback. Board effectiveness reviews, another great one, Nicola, you'll have come across those ones. Glassdoor reviews, what are they saying? People who leave about the company, and I'm sure you have other ideas as well. And then being able to show that up and show the mirror up to the people that need to be on board for when you're impacting the culture is really impactful. Think about what facts exist, your engagement score, if you're measuring it. If you're not, it's something you can consider. The cost of staff turnover. So for every staff that leaves, so we have a really great Excel that calculates what is the cost of staff turnover. So especially if you have a high staff turnover, if anyone wants that, reach out to me after and I can share it with you. Percentage of staff turnover, number of good leavers, customer service level, all of those things. So that gives you, that tells you what is not working and what needs to be prioritized first, because there's, you know, all those 10 steps, which one should you prioritize first? So I'm jumping fast. Any clarifying questions with all of that? So I will send you those docs. Thoughts, questions?
I think it's, I mean, I think it's great. I mean, of course, the question is, what is a good culture? What culture should we have? So that maybe is also a difficult question, because before going all this path to, let's say, this is a sort of fit gap analysis and then execute on the gap, right? But
Yeah.
before doing all this is what culture do I need to have? Also, how does the culture tie with my strategy? So I need to achieve something and I have a strategy. Is my culture fitting with the strategy or not?
Yes.
And so also I think there's some work to say, okay, if this is your strategy, do you think you have the right culture for the strategy? And what is the culture you need for this strategy, right? So there is some thinking which is probably difficult also. Where should I be? Or you can simply say, okay, there are two people complaining about something and therefore I need to fix it. But maybe I am more big picture and say, do I need to look at the big picture and think what culture I need and then go and fix it? Or I look at the bits and pieces without really thinking what I need, you know what I mean?
Yes, so let me just share here, which we do in another workshop of ours, is there's four types of culture.
Right.
Yeah, and which we won't go into now because we only have a couple of minutes, but what you do is exactly, you identify which of the cultures you are. What is the risk? Because with every culture, the four types, when you bring it to extreme, it can have negative. So even though it's positive, it can be negative. And that's how you then identify where you are now, what do you need to be. So that is a really another valuable thing you can do as well. That's the next stage of identifying the culture. So we can do that in our next workshop as well, if that is another one of value.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Good. Okay, so let me just get back there now. Oh, where is So what we would, am I sharing my screen? Let me share back. Let's finish off and let you guys go. So we welcome you to invite in for a strategy session. We do a 1 hour free complimentary strategy session to hear where your culture is now, where do you want it to be, and what would be the strategies to get there. So if you want to book in on Calendly, we send the link on the email after. Let me just put it on the chat there for you guys, because some of you will be wanting to be efficient and get it in. There we go, chat. Oh, disappeared. What am I doing? There we go. So you come into Calendly and you just pick a time. We normally do them on Mondays and Wednesdays, or strategy sessions. There's a 2 left, I think, for Monday. So book in for a free hour there. And we are also looking. We'll come around and ask you for your gem and your pledge now. We are also starting now in March, we're going to launch a new program where we want to train people to do what we do. So give them all the tools, the documents, the forms that we use, and bring them in and have a community of culture leaders, where we share best practices, we do clinics, we do coaching, and we do the courses, so that you are trained to be able to really deliver a great culture in your company. So watch out, we'll be sending you some offers for that in February as well. So we're really excited about that, so that we'll be able to spread the love even further. So tell me, a gem and a pledge. Now let's quickly go around the room. Following that, was there a gem that you have, and what is your pledge that you take away? Becky, maybe I start with you, since you were my first one all the time. I'm targeting you.
Yeah, I think for me, I probably need to do a stay interview. I mean, we recently did an engagement survey. It was recently, it was probably about 6 months ago now. So I think I would like to do. We have taken some actions from that, and we have implemented a few things. I think it'd be quite interesting to do a stay interview with some of the guys or some of the teams, just to see if they can feel what has happened and what has changed. Yeah, I think that's probably what I would take away from it.
Brilliant. Gores?
Yeah, we do a lot of the things that you have mentioned in terms of that peer-to-peer learning and stay interviews and kind of pulse survey check-ins. And I completely, agree with you in terms of it's what you do with the information. We also have like the ping pong table, which obviously is just the thing that looks nice and well, people use it, but yeah, it doesn't actually necessarily change or improve culture. I took away the kind of authority piece. So people want authority. So actually I really like that, because I often talk about, giving people that delegated, but actually understanding the authority piece and where your levels are is really helpful, because we're always saying we want managers to do more, and they say they want to do more, but then there's a sort of inertia, and I think it's because of the awkward risks.
Yes.
And the psychological safety piece, which again we ask about. So yeah, my pledge is to have a coaching session, and I've just booked one.
Oh, amazing, super duper.
Thank you. What a generous thing to offer as well. Thank you.
You're welcome. Liz?
For me, I think around the pulse survey, because I don't feel ours is happening readily enough. Consequently, with the tight labour market as we have at the minute, it's more important for within our environment to be getting that information earlier. Sometimes it's not timely enough to make such a big impact with it. So that's, and I definitely I'd second what Gors has said about the psychological safety, because it's creating a culture where people, the quality of the information that you're going to get will be based on people's whether they feel safe enough to engage with that process and actually give you the feedback, and it's what you do with it afterwards.
Brilliant. Thank you, Katie. Glyn.
Yeah, I thought the iceberg of ignorance is really quite illuminating. I think so. Bex and I, so Bex is my head of people and I'm like the chief operations officer. And I think like as an organization, us in the C-suite, we become a little bit defensive. And I'm always thinking like, why are we defensive? But if you're only seeing 4%, I think it was, and then you go all the way down and it's 100% at the employee level. It just explained a number of things that are going on in our organization as we are growing. I think in terms of pledges, I think we just need to move forward with our reigniting of like, so because of the growth and raising money and all of those things, the culture piece has got pushed to the side. But the problem we've got is that we've recruited more people into the business than were in the business when we set the culture. Did you know what I mean? So we've got this fragmentation happening at the moment. So the pledge is like, actually, there are ways to do it. And I like some of the tools and the ways that you get the intel that you don't do it all in one go, but we can actually start on this journey and say, right, over this period of time, we've got these milestones to hit. So I think that's really pushed us. So we will book a session with you as well.
Amazing, amazing. Get in there. Super duper. Look forward to it, Glyn. Gail.
Yep, I had as my gem just that reminder of the iceberg of ignorance as well. I think it's quite a powerful stat to remind people of when you are getting barriers, you know, from that kind of exec level. And then the pledge is actually to look out for the information in February of your kind of culture leaders.
Oh, exciting. I'm so excited. Yeah, so we're busy building it at the moment, so we'll invite you all. You're going to get the special offer. There'll be a special offer for the people who are in our community already, so you'll get a special offer as well. So I'll be starting from March then. And we just want to share all the tools we have and get you guys doing all of it. It's for us, it means we'll have a much bigger impact because we'll have more people being culture coaches out there as well. Nicola.
Yes, well, congratulations is very interesting. As I stated at the beginning, I would like to have a session with you to explore whether we could do some business together and bringing this to Italy and see if it makes sense. I'm very busy, but I think I love this thing and I believe it very much. So I think there is potential. So we will have a chat and see where it takes us.
Fantastic. And I love Italy. Love it. And Katie.
Hi, so I'm actually only 3 weeks into my role. So, and I guess what I'm taking away from it, actually all of these things we're talking about exist within a corporate framework within Green Court. I'm just not seeing them at the coalface, if that makes sense. So I think that all the tools and techniques, engagement surveys, day reviews are there. It's just making sure they become part of our rituals, as you said.
Yeah, and pulling it together and actually taking the info out of it. And it's just not the done thing, which very commonly you hear in the bigger corporates, something like Green Core, which is really big, you know, that it's just done because it's meant to be done, but actually making sure then we are actioning it. Super. Great. Fantastic. And you guys are sharing emails there, which is super. Yes, I'll let you sign off. We kept you 6 minutes over. I will get a bad star for my timekeeping today. But there was lots of good sharing. And yes, so book in and I'll look forward to seeing you. If not, we do a free masterclass at the end of every month on the last Thursday. If you've registered for today, you will get the information about the next one. So you have to do anything extra. Love it. Great, guys. Go and be great culture smart leaders today.
Thank you. That was brilliant.
Great. Love it.
Thank you.
I just stood on the poor dog. See you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.